And welcome to The Cult Of, a podcast where I, cult movie connoisseur Jesse, go over the entire filmography of some of our favorite cult stars. Now, you might be wondering, okay, who the hell is this guy? And also, what the hell is this show I've stumbled upon, I guess? So I guess introductions to be done. Hi, if you don't know who I am, I'm Jesse. I am the host and producer of Cult Cinema Circle, which is my podcast that I do. I've been doing it since August of 2022, and, it's been fun. I've talked all about, all sorts of cult movies, really, and I'm still doing that. I did pull back, and I've been doing bi-weekly episodes, so 2 a month, and that's been nice. But maybe I'm getting the itch a little bit. I don't know. And I wanted to do something maybe a little different for me, I guess. And I wanted to be like, well, what else could make me interested or want me to, keep doing like different episodes of this show or any podcast, really. And I kind of was inspired really by just like some of the podcasts, like, How Do You Drew, the girls on there that, they cover all sorts of Drew Barrymore stuff, both her movies and other things she's been a part of, and even news and stuff. And even the guys over at Supporting Actresses who did Chasing Amy Adams, and they're currently doing Chasing Gwyneth Paltrow, where you go through pretty much the whole filmography of, one Miss Amy Adams and also Gwyneth Paltrow. But I wanted to be like, it could be fun to maybe, especially for, cult movies, there is this interesting kind of corral, if you will, of, cult movie stars and people who have been in these projects who, it's really interesting to look at that and to kind of think of like, yeah, what are some of these people up to and what have they done? And it's cool to see their progression too sometimes. And I always just think that's interesting. So that's what this show's going to be. And so that means I'm just going to choose somebody to go on and do, cover the filmography of. So week to week, we're going to be, covering a movie from there. So it's going to be like a seasons thing pretty much. So The Cult Of is going to be the show as a whole. And then every season I do is going to be another star. Because again, they can have vast filmographies, if you will. So you may be wondering, okay, well, Jesse, that sounds all great and everything, but who's going to be your first subject, I guess? What's going to be? And I'm glad you asked. So this season, this introductory season, if you will, I'm going to do the filmography of an old reliable of mine, honestly. He, I will say, is somebody who, when I see him in a movie, I always think like, you know what? Maybe it's at least somewhat decent. Let's see what he brings. And I decided I wanted to do the filmography of one Mr. Matthew Lynn Lillard. Now, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, he's been in the news recently, the end of last year or the beginning of this year or something, whenever Quentin Tarantino said that stupid shit about like him and Paul Dano and like Owen Wilson and stuff. And it's interesting because I was on his IMDb earlier and I was like, looking in some of the lists that people make on there. And it's funny because there's some people who are like, my favorite actor and actresses. And then like you have some people who are like the worst actor and actresses, things like that. And of course, Matthew's on those lists sometimes. And it's just like, it's so funny how people obviously have their own opinions and they have their own, considerations about like what they think is good and what they don't think is. And so, to cover the filmography of someone like Matthew Lillard is really interesting. And yeah, I just thought like, let's do it. Why the hell not? I guess as an intro, I'll give a little bit of my history to Mr. Lillard himself. I think I definitely first saw him probably as a child, obviously, because I was only, when I first saw like Scooby-Doo, for example, it came out when I was around 10. And so for me, that's when I first saw him. And I was like, who the hell's that guy? And I'm thinking like, and again, I grew up with Scooby-Doo, so I knew like, okay, I know what this is doing. Like, I get it. But at the same time, I was like, I didn't know who that guy was, and so then realizing as time went on where I was like, when I saw Scream for the first time, I was like, oh, wait, isn't that guy from, I literally was thinking like, wait, isn't that guy from, I guess the Scooby-Doo movie, but also like, isn't that girl from Jawbreaker? You know what I mean? Because I had seen that before. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. All right, fine. So it was interesting. That's Rose McGowan for anybody who doesn't know, I guess. I don't know. But don't worry, she could also be on this list too. That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, yeah, I just, that's been my history with him. And it could just be a mix of me finding him both extremely attractive. I've always found him very attractive, honestly. It could be that. It could also be the mix of just thinking he's like a really good actor, in my opinion. I think he's always making interesting, bold choices of some sort. And again, he's one of these people who, if I see him and stuff, I'm always like, oh yeah, like let's check it out, I guess. So I thought he'd be kind of a perfect beginning of that. So yeah. Now, so that's my history with Mr. Matthew Lillard. I'm not going to give you too big of a history on him. I mean, pretty much he, from his IMDb biography, I guess, he is somebody who was born in Michigan. All right. And he then moved to California with his family, Tustin, California, to be specific. He was there from like first grade until he graduated high school. And then after that, he actually went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Pasadena, California, where he was actually the classmate of one Paul Rudd, apparently, which is interesting. But during that time, he actually got involved with doing a show called Skate TV, which was on Nickelodeon, which no, I'm not going to cover, and we'll get to that in a minute. But he did that real quick. He did like 13 episodes of it. And then he was also a non-union extra in Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, which again, I'm also not going to cover and we'll talk about. But yeah, anyway, but he ended up in New York, actually going to the Circle in the Square theater school as well. Very well-known theater school there. And from there, I mean, he was there from like what he said, I think before he said he was there from like 21 to 26 or 7 or something like that, because he was born in the 1970s. So, he was there until pretty much Scream happened, right? So that makes sense. Anyway, but yeah, then when he got his audition for Serial Mom, where he was, we'll talk about that in the episode too, but like, he actually was replacing somebody and he ended up getting that role, and it kind of changed things for him in a way. And that's a little bit of history on Matt as in a nutshell, I guess, for maybe those who are uninitiated to Mr. Lillard. But yeah, so I think like, if anything, it's interesting to then also see just his progression and what he's done. He is this person who, I think he's also a really interesting character actor to watch and to see what he does. And again, see the choices that he makes and what he likes to do. So yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of go through that progression. Now, as I was saying just a little bit ago, so I had to put some criteria onto this show in particular. So I'm not just covering everything Matthew Lillard has done, okay? Because that's quite a bit, actually. Now, what I'm going to do is generally I'm staying to, and I guess this goes for all of the Cult of seasons, I'm going to do just the feature films of that actor. So that does not include like direct-to-video movies, I guess. Anything that's like a film, I guess. So no direct-to-video movies. So like all those Scooby-Doo movies that he voices, I'm not doing those. I'm sure you can find a fun Scooby-Doo podcast that will cover those. I'm not doing it because there's a lot of them. Good for him though. I love that, but not doing that. Also not doing TV series. So you will not be hearing about Good Girls or Twin Peaks: The Return or even maybe Carrie. Even though Carrie's coming out this year, and don't you worry, I'm going to be watching it too. Who knows? I might cover that. Who knows? But that's just gonna be for my own self, because if you don't already know about this about me, I love Carrie. So and I want to see what Mike Flanagan does with it, so that'll be interesting to see. But anyway, so yeah, no TV series, no direct-to-video movies, and that's pretty much it. I mean, anything that, like I said, is like a film, I guess, and I guess maybe anything he's like uncredited in, or maybe he's playing himself. I might do the ones where he's playing himself. That might be fun. But yeah, maybe if he's uncredited, I might not do it. it. So I might not do Scream 2 if that's okay, but we'll see. I don't know yet. We'll think about it, but that's the general idea. So that means at least this season you have about almost 60 movies I'm going to cover, honestly, for him. And also, like, because I already have a show that covers cult movies and stuff, it'll be interesting because, like, I don't think I'm going to really re-release some of the... I've done, like, 13 Ghosts, Scream, and what was the other one I did with him in it? She's All That. I think I did those on my show at one point previously. Like, Scream was, like, 2022. And, I've done some of these episodes before. But I think I might even just do a revisit of them. And it'll be interesting because, like, I can kind of, think about what I think of it now. Like, do I still like that movie? Do I not like it? Like, all that sort of thing. So, yeah, so that'll be kind of fun to do. And, this might get its own podcast feed. But I might also just put these on the Cult Cinema podcast feeds as well, which is fine. And, you can get the best of both of all of it, Like I said, when it comes to this, like, this is going to be a thing where, the person's going to change here and there, depending on the season. So that'll be fun. But I think all of that being said, I'm pretty much, that's what we're going to do. And, I'm interested to see how this will go and how I've already watched some of his films, which is interesting, to prepare for this. So we'll have to see how that goes. And yeah, it'll be interesting to dig into some of this stuff and to be able to see. But with all that being said, let me do my little wrap up of this. If you would like, I won't be making like separate socials for this or anything. So if you want to, please give me a follow on Instagram at Cult Cinema Circle, and also on Blue Sky, Cult Cinema Circle over there. And I'll try my best to like post as well about like, the the cult of stuff. I'm going to also try and post about that as well. Social media, listen, I'm only so good at it, honestly, but I will do my best to be able to also post about that stuff. You can always reach out on cultcinemacircle@gmail.com. All right. In case you have any sort of like things you want to tell me, if you want to tell me what I'm doing good, right or wrong, or what you like and what you don't like, send me like a pie recipe or something. I don't know, like whatever you want to do. All right. Or you could tell me how much you love Matthew Lillard or much you hate him or any of this stuff. I don't know. But yeah, if you want to send me a professional email, go ahead. And also, if you like this idea, if you enjoy the show of what you're hearing, please give the show a follow, give it a 5-star review, 1 to 2 sentences, all that stuff. Love it. If you're listening, I think these might go on YouTube, like give me a thumbs up, give me a comment if you want. I don't know, just like let's have fun, let's just vibe together. It'll be fun. But I think with all that being said, I think that brings our introductory episode to a close. But thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to my little intro episode of The Cult Of. And I'll catch you on the next one, which will be, we are going to be doing Serial Mom from 1994. So I'm excited for that. But thanks so much and catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye.